Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the 143. We're coming at you live with episode 153.
Got a doozy coming at you. Another week of pointless Cowboys football who decided to win a game for no reason at all because who cares about draft stock? We need to start losing these games that mean nothing so we can get a better draft pick.
And making Jerry think he needs to re-sign all his coaches.
Yeah.
Which he probably will. That's neither here nor there. Let's get us started talking about the NFL Week 15 action with the stat of the week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. The Lions have now won a game this season in which Jared Goff threw for 5 interceptions, and they won that game, and lost a game this season in which he threw 5 touchdowns this weekend against the Bills. It's not really like a first time or anything, but it's just like that's a pretty weird stat for you.
A little bit of a double-edged sword there. You know, we're going to go with the same game. Your player of the week, Josh Allen, who threw for 362 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and 2 rushing touchdowns with 68 rushing yards.
We're going to talk about this more next week, but Josh Allen's the clear front runner for MVP right now.
These last 4 games, he has really pulled away from the pack. Last 4 or 5 weeks, I guess, or whatever. He's been ridiculously good, doing it with his legs, doing it with his arm, and not a lot of help in the wide receiver room. The guys he's got out there are getting it done, but it's just he doesn't have those, he doesn't have a number 1 star names to go out there. Big loss with Stephon Diggs, but he's doing, I think, more without him than he was with him. So props to Josh Allen.
We'll talk about that game real quick since the stat and the player were both from that game. Bills-Lions just had a back and forth, highest scoring game of the season. Bills win 48-42 over the Lions. Both offenses were playing amazing, and both defenses basically were not. And it's tough to say with the Lions right now. They are super banged up on defense. They have so many starters that are hurt and potentially out for the season. A good amount of them. And then they lost David Montgomery for the season. So Lions are still a Super Bowl contender in my eyes, but they are pretty banged up right now, losing a big one to the Bills.
Yep, and obviously the big one there is losing David Montgomery, as they've had that 1-2 punch for so long with Montgomery and Gibbs, but now they'll have to make do without the Sonic and Knuckles duo and just go with Sonic.
Just Sonic the Hedgehog.
Despite that, the Lions are still on a tear this season. This is just a minor setback with another team that's, a playoff contender. Yeah. Obviously, you want to say Super Bowl contender, but I don't know. We haven't seen Josh Allen do too great in the playoffs, but maybe this is what's going to change all of our minds.
Yeah. People are saying he looks different this year. Obviously, we won't know until we get there. Like me and Nick have said all season, you can say whatever you want about the regular season. But I seem to remember many conversations where Josh Allen was playing MVP-level football in the regular season. Still falls short in the playoffs. Easier said than done. We'll be keeping an eye on the Bills. But, yeah, the Lions, their offense is firing all calibers right now. But they got to figure it out on defense because their defense is getting torn apart by everyone they're playing right now.
Cowboys win again, like we said, meaningless game. Cooper Rush wheeling and dealing had himself a nice little game. Not much to say there as both teams' seasons are done. This win does not mean a whole lot. All it does is hurt our draft stock.
Good morale boost for the boys, but other than that, at this point, we're almost rooting for us to lose just so we can get a good draft pick. But it looks like, based on our record of 6-8, probably middle of the pack, not a top 10 pick. So about where we normally are.
Ravens steamrolled the Giants. No surprises there. The Giants have been losing to everybody. They're a little banged up, losing some guys.
Lamar had 5 passing touchdowns. Not used to seeing that from him. He's really become a better passer this year. As much as we criticize him for being a running back, I'll be the first one to say that he has looked a lot better in the passing game as well. And the Ravens look to be kind of like the Lions, where they're great on offense and their defense seems to be kind of figuring it out. But big one this upcoming weekend, Steelers-Ravens. That's always a defensive battle.
Those AFC North matchups are just grinds all the time for all the teams, not just the Ravens or the Steelers. But They're always
unless the Bengals are involved, then it's a high scoring matchup because they can't stop anybody. But Ravens are rolling.
Jets, Jags, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Rodgers figuring it out a little bit too late. Obviously, that was a lethal duo back when they were in Green Bay, but this week and last week they have been really nasty together.
Yeah.
Too bad the Jets season is basically over already.
Devontae Adams, second half, 9 receptions, 198 yards, and 2 touchdowns. At halftime, he had 0 catches for 0 yards. So him and Aaron Rodgers are just having a good time. And congrats to the Jets getting their 4th win of the season. Can we stop talking about the Jets, please? Because I'm so sick and tired of turning on ESPN or throwing on a sports podcast, and we're still talking about Aaron Rodgers. Guys, the season's over.
I mean, the Jets were better with Zach Wilson.
They were better.
And Zach Wilson's horrible, but look at the record.
The Jets owe Zach Wilson an apology, in my opinion. Zach Wilson at least won 5 games with him. The Aaron Rodgers still hasn't done that. Or he won more, but he won 5 through 12. Aaron Rodgers won 3 through 12. So y'all thought Aaron Rodgers was the answer. I think the Jets are the problem, and there is no answer at the moment. So Commanders sneak one out over the Saints. Commanders have really been trending down as of late. Their offense is slowed. They scored quickly on the Saints and then just stopped scoring against Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. The Saints, obviously, their season's been done for a while now. Had a chance to win it with a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Didn't get it. I think it was the right move to go for 2. I don't know why you'd try to send that to overtime. Commanders get kind of lucky. We need them to play well against the Eagles this weekend just because can't stand the Eagles. And they're rolling. Yeah,
we'll see. Obviously, the Saints, since week 2, they have been absolutely horrendous. Which, if you remember, week 2 was when they thrashed the Cowboys in Dallas. Alvin Kamara had the game of his life. Commanders do sneak one out against a broken and battered Saints team. Alvin Kamara wasn't there the second half. He left with an injury. And then obviously they have been without Derek Carr, or they were without Derek Carr for the first time this week, playing against 2 backups. But, at the end of the day, they went into New Orleans and got a win. So props to them. Hopefully they can take that momentum against Philly this upcoming week.
Yeah. Chiefs Browns, not really much of a game to speak about, but at the end, Patrick Mahomes comes out with an ankle sprain as they diagnosed a high ankle sprain. I think he'll be week to week. It's kind of important because they're battling for the 1 seed right now. They have the 1 seed. I think if they win 2 more games, it's theirs for sure. If they don't, then it'll be they need help, people beating the Bills potentially. But looking at it, big picture, the Chiefs do have the Texans, the Steelers, and I think the Broncos left, whereas the Bills have the Patriots, the Jets, and the Patriots. So Bills probably will win out. The Chiefs got to win 2 more games. If they don't, then because the Bills have the tiebreaker.
I mean, the Chiefs have not been winning these games very flashily.
No.
These aren't flashy wins, but week after week, they continue to get the job done and get these wins.
Might see Carson Wentz Saturday.
I mean, could be if, obviously if Patty's not playing. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, so Dolphins, Texans. This win, Texans win 20-12. Texans are not looking too great right now. Not this season. CJ Stroud has just not been himself. The defense has been kind of where they've been shining. And CJ Stroud's really got to, not that he's not playing awful, but he's not playing amazing, and they need him.
It's not what we saw last year.
Yeah, they need him to get back up there because they're not going to win anything in the playoffs if he's playing like this.
Yeah, there's a whole nother level that CJ Stroud is not playing at that we saw from him last season. I mean, he was kind of somewhat in the MVP conversation a little bit last year, just with the level of play. But this year, I don't know. There's something that just looks off about him.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Texans are still doing fine, but long term, I think you want your guy CJ Stroud to just be in his groove, in his bag, out of whatever this funk that he's in.
Yeah, it would be nice to see the Texans be a high-scoring offense, dominant offense come playoff time, just because you want to see those good playoff games, kind of like the game they put up against the Browns last year. They're still trying to figure it out over there, but they are still winning, and actually they won the division this
They've
past
got
weekend as well.
so many offensive weapons that they should be easily putting 35 up every single week, but there's just things to figure out still in Houston.
Dolphins, on the other hand, I think they've only won 3 times with teams over 500 with Mike McDaniels as the head coach. A lot of talk in Miami that he's in the hot seat at this point. He probably should be. His team's been healthy now for a good chunk of the season since they got Tua back, and they've just not looked like they should. And with that much talent on offense that they have, they should be putting up more than 12 points.
With a duo like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, you should be doing a lot more than putting up 12 points. That's just my opinion on the matter. And I don't know how to feel about the coaching there.
I like Mike McDaniel. Maybe Miami's not a good fit for him. Maybe he wants a place that's inside, kind of right deep in the heart of Texas. Maybe stars on the side of the helmet or something like that. Would love for him to have a home in Dallas because he is a young offensive guru, and that's what we need.
Maybe.
Doesn't have to be head coach, but I would like Mike McDaniels because if he gets fired, we could offer him an offensive coordinator position.
Have him call the plays, maybe?
Yeah, and hire
I wouldn't necessarily hate that. But nonetheless, let's move on to Colts Broncos. Big story there as Jonathan Taylor completes a 45-yard touchdown run, except he doesn't as he drops the ball at the 1-yard line.
Second time it happened on Sunday, happened in the Bengals game as well. I don't know how players do that. I just think I don't know how you drop it at the 1. You just hang on to it till you get the back. Like, we just got to teach them at this point. You hang on to it till you hit the back of the end zone, I guess.
That's what I was going to say is I feel like we had seen it long enough to where players knew just run it out the back of the end zone and then chunk the ball or whatever. But
I feel like once every 6 weeks we see a player do this and everybody's like, dude, what in the world? I don't know how they do it. Like, honestly, I don't know how you drop the ball. Really. Like, I feel like I would see it enough at this point to where I'd be like, don't drop the ball. Don't drop the ball. Jonathan Taylor making a lot of fantasy owners mad because that could have been 6 and instead it's -2. That's not the only thing. Adonai Mitchell, a receiver, tried to throw the ball back to Anthony Richardson and actually threw himself a pick 6. Broncos defense. So Broncos look great. They're probably going to get that 7 spot in the playoffs, maybe even the 6, depending on what the Chargers do. But the Broncos are looking pretty good.
Bo Nix actually having himself a decent season. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he was in one of the, I'm putting this in quotes, older guys coming out of college just because he, spent a little bit more time than most did. But he does look like one of the better. I think he's probably looked like the best rookie quarterback we've seen this season. He's been thriving in that Broncos offense. And they got some decent weapons offensively. So, I mean, it's not crazy, but I do think the Broncos maybe could do some damage in the playoffs.
They're probably not a team that you would prefer to see just with how they've been. You don't want the hot teams, and right now they've been pretty hot as of late. And then Bucks Chargers. Bucks just put it on the Chargers. Everybody's pretty high on the Chargers right now. Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks have kind of gone under the radar this season, and they've got the NFC South pretty much locked up if they get a couple more wins. And the Falcons are not looking great. The Bucks are probably going to host a home playoff game.
I was going to say the Bucks healthy is a nasty team, especially offensively. I mean, once they've got Mike Evans back, they've been rolling. Obviously, there was kind of that lull there in the middle right after they lost Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But, they started to get some momentum there late again as Bucky Irving kind of has himself a really good second half of the season. They find themselves a weapon there, and then Mike Evans comes back, and they've been rolling, kind of looking nasty. Obviously, they're taking control of the NFC South as the Falcons just continue to lose games. So I think, Tampa Bay could be a home playoff game.
Chargers defense has been the number 1 defense in the league, and Tampa Bay put 40 on them Baker Mayfield, shake and bake with Mike Evans. Their connection has been unreal. And then as well as the Bucs defense just coming in, 2 takeaways, 3 sacks. Just an all-around great game against a great opponent and a great coach. So Chargers still they're right now in the 6th seed, I think, but the Broncos and then we're going to be fighting for that 6 and 7 seed, it looks like, because the Colts and the Dolphins are pretty much done.
Also, Mike Evans, even though he missed like 5 games or something like that, he is still inching to that 1,000
10th straight
receiving 1,000 receiving yard season. I believe so.
Yeah, I think 10th straight 1,000 yard receiving.
Obviously, that was he's been nothing but consistent.
Different quarterbacks too.
Yeah, different quarterbacks, but hopefully that Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield connection is going to be there.
I'll root for the Bucs in the playoffs.
He's got I'm trying to pull it up. I think he's like 250 away. Yeah, he's
doable.
251 away, and he had 159 against the Chargers. I do think Baker
will get it.
Is going to force feed him a little bit.
I think that's what he was doing in this game. But I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't force it to your best receiver. He had 159. If he has,
they've got 3 games left, and he needs 250. So yeah, that's easy for a guy like Mike Evans. That's light
85 a game. Yeah, he's got an average. So
he'll have a 150 in there.
Quick math. Were you impressed with that quick math? I didn't even use a calculator. That's how we do it here at Under Review. We're just gonna barely talk about this one. Eagles beat the Steelers. Nobody can, for some reason, play their best football when they play the Eagles. Jalen Hurts felt like that guy when he got in the press conference, and because he finally had a good passing game for the first time this season, he got up to the podium. He's like, "Is that what y'all wanted to see?" And he felt pretty good, and he threw for 290 and 2 touchdowns, which is crazy because that's what he's supposed to do as a quarterback, is throw the ball. And he actually did this time. So, hey, proud to see him do his job instead of just handing it off or letting his team push him over the goal line for a touchdown. They put a rushing touchdown stat up. I didn't even read it, but I'm kind of tired of seeing that because he doesn't have real rushing touchdowns. Wouldn't you agree?
He has carried into the end zone.
Give that touchdown to the offensive line.
I was about to say, give that to the center or the tight end pushing him over.
Jason Kelce has most of those.
Yeah.
So, Steelers, let's be real.
Offensive struggles continue.
Let's be real. It's been the same with the Steelers all season. Their defense, phenomenal. Their offense, just not there. That will come to haunt them in the playoffs. And whether or not they win their division, which is a very big if right now, just because the Ravens are rolling and they face each other this weekend. They're not. I don't think they're going to be that successful come playoff time. That's just how I feel about it.
It's just kind of iffy. Their defense is good, pretty good, but their offense is way too inconsistent. There was kind of a little glimpse earlier with Russell Wilson that you thought, okay, maybe Russell Wilson could do something with his offense, but I'm just not seeing it. Week in, week out, it's not been consistent. Or it's been more consistently bad, I think, than consistently good. I don't think they're going to do any damage in the playoffs. I think, obviously, they might not even win their division.
Yeah.
They kind of had a chokehold on it there for a while, but the Ravens have been creeping up on them, and they got a big game this weekend against Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's got one more loss than they do, and I guess if Baltimore beats them this weekend, they would probably have the tiebreaker. I don't know how all that works because they would split, but Baltimore probably will take the division if they win Saturday, just overall in the season, I would assume. So Steelers, but if the Steelers can win on Saturday, which they've played Baltimore very well, they've played Lamar Jackson very well. They've been kind of his kryptonite. If they win on Saturday, I think they have a good shot to win the division. This just all comes down to this weekend for the Steelers.
Packers, Seahawks. Big story there is the Geno Smith struggles continue.
And he got injured.
Yeah, he got injured.
He went out.
And the big story there, obviously, was Sam Howell coming in.
Oh, looking awful.
Horrendous. He looked pretty decent there when he was a Washington Commander, but he comes to Seattle and it's just terrible.
Let me tell you, that was a 2023 primetime game right there. That and the Monday Night Football game both of them. And the Sunday
And the
night game,
Thursday night football game.
yes, and the Thursday night football game, which we're not even going to talk about how bad the Thursday night football game was. That's why we didn't even mention it.
Just a horrible slate of primetime games. You'd think it was last year.
Thursday night football didn't have a single touchdown, and it was raining the whole time, just awful. But yeah, Packers Seahawks, they didn't intend that to be. I think it could have been a better game if Geno had stayed in. Sam Howell was just terrible, and there's not much more to say about it. Incomplete pass, interception, fumble, the whole thing. But Packers get a convincing win, and any wins like that will help a team as the playoffs are kind of rolling around. They're going to get a playoff spot. The NFC North will get 3 playoff spots, it's looking like, and
just looking at the standings, you got Lions 12-2, Minnesota 12-2, Green Bay 10-4.
You know, that Week 18 Lions-Vikings game could be a big one. Could be for the number 1 seed.
I mean, maybe. Obviously, the Vikings beat the Bears on Monday, causing them to rise to 12-2, tying their division.
Yeah,
tying records between them and the Lions.
Why is that game on Monday Night Football? Why is that on primetime? I mean, the Cowboys and Bengals put up a better game.
The Bears should not be on primetime.
No. The Bears this season look the same as they did last season, which is crazy because I feel like somebody said something, I think it was us, that Caleb Williams was not the answer. And looks like right now he's not. Bears fans are sick of it. And I would be too if I was a Bears fan. They look awful. Like they normally do. They just get your hopes up at the beginning of the season and comes crashing down pretty early.
Yeah, it's just a joke at this point. Them taking a quarterback high and just stinking.
Are they overly hyped every year for something?
They are because of their quarterback. I mean, that's just how it happens year in, year out. You saw it with Justin Fields. Now we're seeing it with Caleb Williams. They're just going to be horrible for the rest of time. I think that's just how it's going to be.
The Jets.
Just because of the decisions that come from the top are not going to be good enough, and you're not going to get a quarterback that's going to save your season with just how bad everything is.
We got to get DJ Moore out of there. He's wasted talent. And Rome Odunze as well. But yeah, it's Caleb Williams trying to run around like he's at USC playing teams that have no defense, and he's getting killed out there. He's learning the hard way that it doesn't fly the same way in the NFL that it does in college football. Falcons, Raiders don't even really need to. Falcons get the win against the 2-12 team now to get to 7-7. Big news there. Kirk Cousins has been benched after that game for rookie Michael Penix Jr. He will be starting their next game. A lot of Atlanta fans would tell you it's long overdue. As the last 5 games, Kirk has thrown 9 interceptions and 1 touchdown.
He has not looked good. He started off the season
really
extremely hot. Was looking like primetime Kirk back in Minnesota.
Kirk O'Chains.
But came to a screeching halt there at the end. Yeah. And, I mean,
we love the guy. We root for him here at Under Review. And it breaks our hearts to see him play this bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
I was enjoying him being decent in Atlanta. But
you got to go with Raheem Morris here. I mean, it's time. It's time to start Penix. And maybe this will help Kirk Cousins in the long run. Just getting benched, kind of giving you some more added motivation there. But, they drafted Penix for a reason. It's time to give him a shot.
And they've got the weapons offensively that I think you need to get your young guy in there, mesh him together with everybody, and just get it going. You need to change there offensively. I mean, we know they have the skills and talent to do something good, but they kind of waited too long on this move right here that I don't know if they're going to do anything the rest of the season, but who knows? Michael Penix could flip it around these last 3 games, and we'll see what happens. So here's to end our shows on Under Review. I brought to you a quote from Bob Golick, and he said, "If you're mad at your kid, you can either raise him to be a nose tackle or send him to play out on the freeway. It's about the same."
Ain't that the truth? We thank you for tuning in this week. We will see you next week. Nick, next week, I guess, Wednesday would be Christmas Day, so we're not releasing an episode, correct?
That's
incorrect. True. We will be releasing an episode like we always do, 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. Go listen to it. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Merry Christmas.